I'm Alad Gilo, one of the co-founders of Reach. Cold Email Hot Takes is a mini video series in which we talk to inspiring sales leaders about their approach to outbound sales. In this week's episode, we're really excited to have with us Jan from Pleo. Can you quickly introduce yourself, Jan?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Ela, thank you so much for having me. Maybe people know me from LinkedIn. Right now, I'm working as an account executive for Pleo. Before that, I was leading the outbound team, and I am still doing like a lot of outbound prospecting, and a big fan of personalization and creating just meaningful conversations with our cold prospects. So yeah, happy to get the invite, and happy to chat to you today.
Yeah, it's really fun to have you on. We've obviously discovered you through LinkedIn and a lot of the content you've been writing, which has been extremely valuable, and your background kind of going from an SDR to recently to an AE and doing outbound. And I think we're really excited to have you on. So thank you. I'll just kick this off with the first question being that, I think so many people are overwhelmed by the amount of emails they're receiving, especially, nowadays that everyone's doing so much outbound. I'm curious, like, what are some of the things that you do or the principles you follow to try to stand out from the noise, right? To actually get noticed.
Yeah, I think there are like new ways to go, and you have to like innovate all the time. I think like the things that I've been doing like 2 weeks ago, they're not applicable right now today from the emails. And the way I think about it is you have to evolve all the time. And I've been just listening to a podcast, 30 Minutes to President Club, where I think it was an A from Gong, where they're speaking about like camouflaging your emails as if they were an internal email, right? So the email should look, or the first couple of sentences at least, should maybe sound like an internal email, or like, it's not don't put something sales in your headline, but put something that you, Elad, maybe would send to your colleague, right? So process optimization 2022 or whatever. And that could help you to actually get a way in. So I think that's one email, like try to camouflage them as if they were actually internal emails. And then I think it's really about the first sentence that needs to stick out. And a really simple thing that some of the top BDRs actually in our place have been doing is just to switch hey Jan, for example, to Jan hey in the first like sentence, to just make it click, or like help the email to get opened, and then go in. Another way, I think the third tip would be to actually skip the hello and write just a nice sentence and then put the name in the end. So really been liking your growth and initiatives that you've been driving recently, .elad, and then go into the pitch. So three things: internal camouflage, switch the first and the last name maybe, and then the first sentence really has to stick out. Yeah,
those are great ideas. In fact, I think we got one of these ideas from you in one of your posts, I think, on LinkedIn, which was to remove, basically to break up the pattern, right? Which is so much what we see. It's often like first name, then followed by something else. And so when you follow that pattern, it's easy to ignore it. So we've also started dropping that first name at the beginning and just going straight into the personalization, or into that first line, right? So those are really good tips. So brings me, of course, to, is personalization one of the things that you're using to try to stand out? And if you are doing it, I'm curious, kind of, how do you approach personalization? Is it more on a persona level, company level, or some other way?
Yeah, I think it's just one tool in your box that you have that will get you like closer to hitting your number, or like getting an answer, because that's what we want in outbound. We want to receive an answer and start a conversation. And I try to really think about personalization on multiple different levels, right? It's not only about your personal goals in the company, but it could be the industry. It could be what's actually going on at a whole company level. You can like really think about this in multi-level steps. And I think going even one step further is that you have to find this way to connect your personalization towards something that's relevant. And I think actually relevancy beats personalization, because if I say, hey, Elad, I see that you love Milan, like, let's connect, that's personalized, but it's not taking the next step. It's not making a segue into a problem that you want to do. So I think you also need to be relevant, and usually you do that by uncovering like a problem, or asking illuminating question that sheds light on a problem that the prospect might have and that you know that they have.
Mm.
And I think that's something that maybe you can try and test out with. I think we need to think about personalization as a tool that helps us to get relevant, and then when we have the relevancy and we have a personalization approach, we actually get an answer. Yeah.
100% agree. I think personalization is and this actually came out another chat we had with David Bentham from Cognism, and some of the people
Yeah.
they approach personalization a bit as a checkbox exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, I technically mentioned something personal to you, but like, what is the value, right? If I just say that I know where you went to school, or I see where you're living, or I mentioned the sports team there, like that, technically I went a little bit step beyond maybe a purely generic email, but I'm not really doing anything that should be hooking the recipient in some way. And so if you can make it relevant, and if you can make it meaningful, of course, it's a much more powerful thing to do, right? I'm curious, like in that regard, are you so are you first looking at relevance? Are you first looking at, okay, here's the problem, and then what personal information can I find to somehow tie that in? Is that kind of the approach for you?
Yeah, and I think I sort of have this mental mind map of a like formula that I try to use, and I try to connect like personal things towards a trait that then will translate into their work, right? So if I found out on LinkedIn that you're a runner, right? I know that you're probably persistent, you probably want to reach your goals, and that you are pretty much ambitious. And then I'm gonna ask, like, how is that translating into your day to day, and how could we actually segue into that? So I try to always like write 3 traits down that I find about a prospect, and then like tie it back into an illuminating question that is connected to what that. So what could work is like, hey, Eli, I've seen that you've been an avid runner. Like, how's your day-to-day drive to surpass your goals translating into your role as a co-founder right now?
Right.
Curious how you solving X, Y, and Z, and then go into the value prop. So that's one way to think about it, and that has been working for me in the past.
That's really interesting. I like that approach. Are you generally kind of leading with a question in your opening lines?
I think, yeah, like first you have the hello or whatever, and then you have a question that should segue into like you have a statement. I mean, you first have the statement, and then you segue into an illuminating question. After that, you probably shed light on a challenge that they have, and then connect that challenge towards your value prop. And if you set your value prop after that, I end with a soft touch and open-ended call to action, which notes into are you interested in learning more? Are you opposed to having a look at this? And then that's my last name. This is usually the way I think about the structure of a cold email that I've seen success in. Yeah,
that's a great structure. I'm curious, like, are you approaching the end CTA? So what is your approach to that? There's differing ideas when it comes to whether or not you should, ask for that call, email one, or should you just get them a little more, tease them as they're more interest? Are you interested in learning more? Can I send you more information? What is your approach to that?
Yeah, I think, of course, depends on your market, depends on persona, depends on so many things. But what I've seen success in is keeping it more soft and not asking about time, because you need to build that familiarity with an account. You need to add value, you need to create meaningfulness. And once they're actually interested, they're going to suggest time. They're going to say, okay, how about Friday at 12 or Tuesday at 1? I'm still free there. So that's what I've seen success in. If I ask about time, usually like you smell the commission breath of that email, and you don't really want to reply that. But people will prove me wrong, but this is just something that we know and data works from Gong and from other providers. So I've always been a fan of keeping it quite open-ended and a soft touch CTA.
We found success with that as well. Really, just kind of doing a much softer CTA, like interested in learning more. Or can I send you more information on this, or can I send you some examples? And just getting that initial buy-in where it's like a really low friction, you're not asking too much for them, and then of course you can build that rapport and then eventually make the harder ask.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is there such a thing in your view as being overly persistent? Meaning, can you follow up too much? Are there too many touch points that somebody can have? Is there an ideal amount in your view, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it starts with the mindset, right? Your mindset should be that you generally want to add value towards your prospect. And you have to figure out what that actually means and how many touch points it actually involves. Our ambition here at Pleo in our outbound motion is to add value with any step we take, right? That should never feel pushy. It should never feel as like over persistent. You should be persistent because you need to follow up, but that should be valuable, and people should learn something that they didn't know before. With the touches that we take. So yes, I think you can be spammy. I think you can be overly ambitious, of course, but you really have to create value. And when you created value, when you send a personalized video, when you actually know that, and you actually did your proper research, there's no reason why you shouldn't follow up, and people appreciated it. I had people watching my video 20 times and they didn't answer, and then I called them and they were like, oh yeah, thank you. Oh, now you finally called. That's so nice. And you go like, I thought, you weren't interested because you didn't answer. Right. So you need to really be persistent and have that value add mindset, and just be curious, I think it's very important that to understand that the goal is not to book a meeting. The goal is not to hit your number. In the end, is of course it is, but it becomes easier once you actually want to genuinely start a conversation with someone. Right. I think that should be the goal. And then, booking a meeting is part of the process, or is part of, an outcome that's possible, but you should be able to aim for starting a genuine conversation. Yeah.
I think that resonates with me as well, but I'm curious, this next question, I think I know how you'll probably respond, but, I think there's some divide in terms of how much you should be pitching on the first email versus just really engaging in a conversation. It sounds like you're really kind of heavy towards the kind of starting the conversation side. So, how do you approach that? I mean, are you, when you're reaching out, is it really just to kind of pique their interest and, saying, hey, is this something that's relevant to you? Or are you really kind of pushing more kind of what it is that your solution is offering?
Yeah, of course you need to push and, add value. I think what's been working for me a bit is starting with like a problem-based opener, right? I want to understand their world. So what I try to do in my first couple of opening sentences is to tell that I'm an expert in the field. I speak to a lot of CFOs right now, and they usually have 3 or 4 types of problems, and I want to know if these problems resonate with their world, and then I want to understand what they do. And then of course pitch, because that's the way we add value in our sense, and that's also what then they want to hear, because they want to know what problems we actually solve, and then go from there. But sort of going away from just adding value, this is how we solve all your problems, but you haven't understood what the problem is. So what's been working for me is to have those problem buckets that help me understand what their problems actually are. Yeah.
And how much are you dedicating in the first email to kind of describing what Pleo does, or what you're basically selling? Are you dedicating much to that?
I have, I think 1 sentence, but I don't even name Pleo at times. That's like, how about we could, and then the value prop of Pleo, right? And you don't even need to name Pleo, because they know you from Pleo. It's in your email, it's in your footer, right? So you don't even need to. I had success booking meetings with not naming where I'm calling from or where I'm reaching out from, because it sheds light on the problem.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I think we've received cold emails ourselves where I feel like there's some, so either people are often they're putting too much kind of feature pitching in their emails, right? They'll go really deep into kind of what the product is or what the solution is. You're like, we're not there yet. Like, don't cram an email like that. Or they're kind of going the other direction, which I feel like I have no idea what you're selling. Like, I have no idea what you're doing. Like, it's one thing to kind of engage with me, but It's another to kind of, I need at a minimum to understand, what it
Yeah,
is I'm even thinking about, to understand like how to even fit this into my, my own mental situation. So
exactly.
it's a fine line though, right? To like, you want to mention just enough so people kind of know why they should care, but not too much that they should get overwhelmed by information.
Yeah, yeah. I think big thing is just to take yourself out of the equation. You need to add enough value, but nobody really cares about you and how great you are. They care
Yeah,
about how they can solve their problems, and we have
exactly.
all of the perfect solution that can solve everything, but we actually don't. So be aware of that and just try to be relevant to them. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's my philosophy.
Well, thanks so much, Jan. This has been so much fun chatting with you. Lots of really good insights and tips that I think others will benefit as well from. So thanks again, and hope to have another chat with you soon.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. All the best, and let me know how I can help in the future.
Great. All right. We'll talk soon.